13 through 23, excuse me. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said. "Take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. "A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no more." After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and go to the land of Israel. For those who are trying to take the child's life are dead." So he got up, took the child and his mother and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judea, in the place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went and lived in a small town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophets, that he would be called a Nazarene. The gospel of the Lord. Thank you. So what you've got here is a kind of a strange text in the Gospel of Matthew. And what I find fascinating about it is God was at work, giving direction, making plans. He was working basically through Joseph, through dreams and things of that sort. But Joseph was willing to listen and obey accordingly. So you have to realize that this omnipotent God, this all-powerful God, this omniscient, ever-present, all-present God was now having to deal with what it's like to live in this world, to protect his son, to literally protect himself. And so he was, and he has to do it without coercing, manipulating, or dominating the human free will. So he's going to find anything that he can to make sure that certain things will hopefully get done. But still, it was dependent on one person, Joseph, obeying the dreams and listening to the dreams. So God was choosing dreams to work through Joseph to protect, the baby Jesus. Go down to Egypt, stay there, because you know what Herod was doing. So, and then, Herod and his his crew, they're dead, so come back to the land of Israel. So prophecies were being fulfilled, and the baby Jesus was now safe, and they went back to Israel. And apparently there was a ruling king that was not too cool at that particular time in Judea, so he went to Galilee, to the land of Nazareth, where there was another king who was apparently a little less dominating and scary. So again, all this is happening because God is at work with his sense of timing and direction and purpose and plans, working in and out through all these human factors to make sure that prophecies are being fulfilled and that his son is being protected at a very crucial time. Because that's how God works. That's how God works amidst our humanity. He works in his own beautiful way. Deborah sometimes talks about things that she reads in her devotions. And this is December 30th. "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. My perspective is unlimited by time." You have to keep in mind that God has no sense of time. When you're eternal, you have no sense of time. But we have a sense of time. That's our fourth dimension. Because I'm infinite, I am able to see and understand everything at once. This makes me the ideal person to be in charge of your life. I know the ending of your earth life as well as I know that its beginning, and I know everything in between. You are finite and fallen. Your understanding is limited and far from perfect. So trusting in me rather than relying on your own understanding is the most reasonable way to live, and it is also the most joyful. Isn't that amazing? That's what God provided for us through the new covenant. So, with the death of my mother-in-law, it kind of made me think about what's transpired over these past 10 or 11 years since she came back to Chicago. We buried her on, not buried, well, we did the service and the wake on Thursday. And then she's being cremated, and we'll get the urn, I guess, within a week or so. But just thinking about her and what transpired since she moved back to Chicago from Vegas. I mean, you know, moving from Vegas back to Chicago, there's got to be a reason for it. And we never quite figured it out, but in 2011, she decided to come back to Chicago. At that particular time, we were living in a condo in Glenview because I was the pastor of St. Philip. And lo and behold, a condo opens up for sale right across the hallway. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, what are the odds? You know, is that a God thing? I mean, remember, when it comes to our relationship to the Lord and Him working in your life, there's nothing is a coincidence. It's a God incident. You know, to me, that was a God incident. So she moved in, and of course, in 2011, that happened. Also in 2011, Ray and Laura were busy starting, you know, this group of people meeting at their house and having meals. And they invited me in November of 2011 to come and talk to them about where to go next with this group of people that had been meeting in their house for meals and communion and study. And I said, well, you could go and become attached to a particular denomination, or you could go totally separate and be on your own, non-denominational, and maybe you could call this place like The Gathering. That was in November of 2011. Well, lo and behold, little did I know that in 2012 I was asked to resign from St. Philip because of some goofy stuff, which I didn't fight. It just was not worth it. I pretty much said, Lord, there must be a reason for all this. I'm just going to put it in your hands and see what happens. And lo and behold, in many ways, I'm glad I left the official ministry because the ELCA has gone a little bit, you know, forgive me, in some directions that I don't agree with. I was working extremely hard at St. Philip. I was only getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. I was about 25 pounds heavier. I think God may have saved me from a stroke. I really don't know. I mean, think about it. Plus, you know, moving away from being a pastor 24/7 has opened up numerous doors to me in the business world and teaching and, you know, all this stuff that I would have never experienced if I would have stayed at St. Philip. So in many ways, it was a blessing. And also, it was a difficult time. I must admit, for like 6 months, it was a very difficult time because that's, you know, a lot of years of my life that suddenly shut down, plus financially and everything else. But having Mom across the hallway was a God-given blessing because she was always in a good mood. She was always there with a good plate of food, inviting us over for dinner. That was like the highlight of my life. I don't think I could have survived as well as I did if Mom had not been there across the hallway. Why? Because I believe God put her there. Well, what are the odds? And of course, also in 2012, right after this all happened, you know, Adrienne Johnson was teaching in West Chicago Elementary School, and so she got me lined up for substitute teaching. How cool was that? That was a good thing. Ray Mumson called me clear out of the blue. Dawson, you want a job? It's like, I hadn't heard from him for years. What are the odds? You know, with Akron Inspections. And so I said, sure, I'll take this job. And of course, it ended up being almost like a $3 million project for Mac Volvo, which involved computer work, and I've told you this before, and I had no idea how to run a computer, no idea how to do a spreadsheet. He hands me a computer, a phone, and a fax machine, and says, you're responsible for this, for the inspection of 4,000 Mac Volvo garbage trucks throughout the United States. Have fun. And I prayed. Remember that? I prayed. Lord, give me the wisdom, give me the strength. And over the next year and a half or so, hey, the Lord provided, and things went well. We actually made a great profit on this project, and he was happy. Ray was. You know, so God bless him. So again, you just never know how God is going to work if you place your trust in him to get you through these difficult times. And of course, the gathering suddenly became available. We named it The Gathering after, I mean, in November 2011, I would have never known, you know, that I would be involved in naming something The Gathering and making it a unique church. But we tried to get involved with an official denomination, and they, you know, because they had heard that I was, you know, an ELC reject. And it was, I think, the NALC, North American Lutheran Church, I'm not sure. But, and I was devastated, you know, because there's another reject. But I'm so glad we never, again, God was at work. No, I don't want you there. The gathering is going to be a very unique group of people, and we have been for what, almost 10, 11 years?
10 years.
Yeah, over 10 years. With all these unique things that we do that has never really been done before by an organized church organization. That's how unique we are.
I wouldn't have been able to do this
Yeah,
we do.
And that's God at work, you know. So
Yeah.
here you go. So God is always there doing and what he can. But he always stops short of manipulating the situation. Comes just short. I mean, because that's his MO. I mean, he will give you all you need. If you're reading the signs and everything else, you'll get what he wants. And then in retrospect, you'll say, wow, yeah, that's God at work. So in 2014, we decided to move to move out of the condos. And I've told you this story before. We had 5 homes to deal with at the same time. 2 condos in Glenview, the house in Carroll Stream where my daughter lived. We were buying something in Itasca. Now that's a whole other story. When we went looking in Itasca, what did I say? I wanted what? A house what? It was going to be what?
A ranch?
A ranch with what?
Basement.
With no basement. Yeah, that's what I told the realtor. A ranch with no basement. So what is the realtor? Well, it was a nice guy. He takes me to a split level in Itasca that has 4 levels, you know. And
Well, you don't have a basement.
there you go. Well, it is a basement. It's got 4 levels. It's got 1, 2, kitchen, and where my and 1 level and a sub basement. But as soon as I walked in to that house, God spoke. It was like the second house we looked at. God spoke to me and said, "Eric, this is your place." Just like God spoke to Joseph. And I said, "No, Lord, I want a ranch with no basement. What the hell am I doing here, you know?" And he says, "Eric, this is your place because it's going to give your mother-in-law her own separate level, all to herself. She's got a fireplace, she's got a bathroom, she's got a bedroom, she's got a living room. She can have a party down there if she wants. I mean, that's her space." I said, "Yes, Lord. Okay, I'll take the steps and I'll take the basement because I don't want to deal with flooding." So, you know, but anyway, you have pumps down there. But again, God at work. And so we had to work with 5 different properties to get everything together. The realtor said, or the guy that was in charge of all the financial shenanigans, said it would never be done. We have enough trouble just selling one house or making that connection. You've got 5 different properties. It'll never happen. And lo and behold, it was some trying times. We kept our cool. We kept praying. We humbled ourselves at times and bit our tongue and didn't do anything crazy. And lo and behold, on that day in 2014, I think it was October 14th or whatever, boom, everything fell into place financially. All the checks moved, all the property sold. It was boom, 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 boom. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? If we had had not been listening to him and doing our own thing and reacting,
Bigger
and
mess.
we would have never taken place.
Mhm.
Then in 2018, my mother-in-law had the colostomy operation and got the bag, you know, the colostomy bag. So after that, she kind of digressed. I don't know why. She didn't feel comfortable going out and things of that sort. So she started staying at home a little bit more, and her space and her chair, that type of thing. And then, you know, things started to digress a little bit. And then about 6 months ago, we were at the point of having to put a diaper on her because she was having a hard time, you know, maintaining her urine and things of that sort. And so we had a diaper on her. And I said to my wife, you know, thank God she's got the bag.
Mhm.
If we had to deal with other stuff besides urine in a diaper, it would have made things a whole lot worse, isn't that right? So even though that bag was kind of intrusive, or you know, God knew that was going to serve a good purpose, in spite of the fact that she didn't care for it. But I have a feeling that if that had not been there, she would have probably been put into a nursing home a lot sooner, because we would have not been able to handle it all. You know, it's not easy stuff. The urine was bad enough. And so she stayed in that chair more and more, you know, and Cheryl and I would talk about, you know, what do we want to do? We prayed about it, we thought about it, and we eventually decided that we were going to let nature take its course. That was our ultimate goal. If it's going to happen, let it happen naturally, without any means of heroic means to keep her alive, you know. And you know, there were times where we wanted to call the paramedics and stuff like that, but we knew that if that happened, oh my God, she'd be in that ER forever, you know, waiting for hours. Then she'd be gone to a room, and they would do all these tests on her. She was weak as it was, and I don't think she would have enjoyed that. But as it turned out, we decided not to go with a nursing home because they never returned our calls. Don't you think that was a God thing? I mean, think about it. We had a nursing picked out home right down the street, pretty much, about 2 minutes away. They never returned our calls. And that was a sign to us, at least to me. I mean, God speaks, you know. I said, that's a God sign saying, don't go to nursing home. Then we talked about home health care, but they weren't responding very well. And then finally we decided on hospice, and Cheryl made a call, and we were going to meet with hospice this last Monday at 10 o'clock, but unfortunately my mother died on Christmas Eve, and she died peacefully, naturally, in her favorite chair, watching her favorite movies, at home. And so instead of having a 10 o'clock appointment on Monday with hospice, we had a 10 o'clock appointment on Monday with the funeral director. What are the odds? I mean, that's God's sense of timing. So, I mean, I'm just letting you know that God works in mysterious ways if we are willing to listen to Him and see when you bump up against something, it's God saying, maybe you should go this way. I mean, whatever. He's an amazing God, and He loves you, He loves me, and He's willing to work in your life in all the intricacies to help you see things and get you through things, whether good or difficult at times. So I'd like to conclude with these words from another book that I read. I read both of these in the morning. It says, trust me with every fiber of your being. What I can accomplish in and through you is proportional to how much you depend on me. One aspect of this is the degree to which you trust me in a crisis or major decision. Some people fail miserably here, while others are at their best in tough times. Another aspect is even more telling, the constancy of your trust in me. People who rely on me in the midst of adversity may forget about me when life is flowing smoothly. Difficult times can jolt you into awareness of your need for me, whereas smooth sailing can lull you into a stupor of self-sufficiency. I care as much about your tiny trust steps through daily life as about your dramatic leaps of faith during difficult times. You may think that no one notices, but the one who is always beside you sees everything and rejoices. Consistently trusting in me is vital to flourishing in my presence. And so, New Year's is all about time, isn't that right? It's all about timing and time. Just as a side note, real quick here, on the 16th of December was a Friday. I always check the balances of my debit cards on Fridays, including the Gathering debit card. So on Friday, December 16th, I noticed that our debit card as a Gathering had a $3,700 balance. And then on the following Tuesday night, I was doing some work for Jeannie, who's a handicapped person living with her mother and her brother in an apartment in Bensenville. And I was picking up some medication for her at the Walgreens, not too far from her house, and I was also getting cash for her, because she needs some cash at times. And I went to the cash machine, the ATM, and I was going to get $60 out, and lo and behold, unbeknownst to me, without me pushing any buttons, mind you, the balance shows, because I very rarely check the balance, when I do these transactions, and it showed that it was now $2,700. So from $3,700 to $2,700 in 4 days, something's wrong here. So that Tuesday night, as soon as I got home from working with Jeannie, I called, the hotline, and sure enough, the lady tells me that there was 4 transactions on Monday using this debit card to Amazon that totaled about $900. Yeah. And so I nixed the card right then and there. And the following morning on Wednesday, went to Old Second and did a filing of what transpired, and hopefully we'll get that money back within the next couple of days. But is that a God thing? I mean, it just popped up. I mean, the balance, I would have never noticed it if it hadn't popped up without me pushing any buttons. Sometimes God in His own miraculous way, and who knows, if I had not nixed the card and waited till that following Friday, that person may have just emptied everything out of the account. We just don't know. Isn't that amazing how God works? So let us bow our heads in prayer. Lord, we just thank you again for your amazing ability to work in our lives, to give us direction and purpose and meaning, and to help us through our daily living. Thank you, Lord, for standing by our side. And we just all say, amen. Amen. Let's confess our faith. It's found